Hello, everyone. My name is Jordyn Smith, and I am the voice and the astrologer behind the webpage and the YouTube channel Nonconformist Conscience. And in this video, I really want to go over this upcoming full moon happening in the sign of Leo on February 5th, which is on Sunday here in America. This is throughout this past year, we've all been working, for those who consciously work with astrology, on how we inwardly relate to ourselves and really breaking through structures that have created have created persistence and resistance within our inner dynamics of how we inwardly relate to ourselves. This has been going on since Uranus has been conjunct the North Node in the sign of Taurus. And I've really seen, myself change in the ways in which I even inwardly relate to myself this past year. And I've definitely seen it in clients as well. And this full moon is a culmination of emotional dynamics that are now wanting to surface, revolving around how we are wanting to creatively actualize and where it is that we can do that, where we can find that. So let me talk a little bit about this full moon and break it down for all of us who like to utilize astrology and to consciously work with the energetics. And hopefully this will resonate with some, or at the very least, you'll see it projected out into the community that you're in and, get to experience astrology mirroring life. So Leo full moon. Leo gets a bad rep. I feel like it's one of those signs in astrology that, people really generalize and they talk about. It can be self-centeredness or narcissism. And yes, it can be, but there's also a very beautiful natural expression of Leo. And in its most natural expression, it's going to be pulling in Aquarius dynamics. And so what that really means is that there can be an extreme self-focus for one to be able to creatively actualize. And when I talk about creative actualization, that doesn't just mean art. It's something that's intrinsic and unique to you as your own person. And it doesn't have to fit into the parameters or the box of what society says is creative. This is, like I said, it's very unique and intrinsic to each soul. For some, it can be about sexual creativity. For others, it can be dealing with the arts, writing, drawing, movies. It can also be pulling in more of the Aquarian nature and dealing with something that's science-based and having creative actualization within that. I feel definitely the creative force whenever it comes to astrology, and another function of that for myself is through writing. Videos are kind of not my thing, but I do them because I know that other people really enjoy having videos or something to rewatch. So my point is that creative actualization is not something that can be contained within a box. There's not a specific way to have creative actualization or to experience it. It runs the gamut, essentially. So with this Leo full moon, we can be experiencing, for some of us, emotional dynamics revolving around how we go about creatively actualizing, or the creative function really wanting to surface as a way for us to utilize it right now. This full moon is opposing its ruler, the sun, as full moons do. They oppose the sun. But this is really interesting because this full moon is Leo and it is ruled by the sun. which is in the sign of Aquarius. And so this is really speaking to, when we look at oppositions, you know, something is an imbalance is being created, and there needs to be integration. This sun, the Leo full moon's ruler, is in a new phase conjunction with Saturn in the sign of Aquarius as well. So we're really looking at where we might be suppressing the creative force within and not going after what it is that our heart is really desiring at this moment in time, that is we're being called to creatively actualize. We can look at this in another way as viewing it as feeling oppressed from doing it, that we're not able to do it because we're being oppressed by something outside of ourselves. And so with the sun in a new phase conjunction to Saturn, there needs to be the Saturnian Capricornian dynamic of reflection. And you layer that with the conditioning of Aquarius, we can see that we're needing to reflect on where we feel like we're suppressing, repressing, or feeling oppressed in the creative function within, how we are feeling like we can't creatively actualize right now, or there's a fear, Aquarius, you know, around liberating ourselves from that. But through reflecting about these dynamics as they're surfacing, the emotional dynamics revolving around this, we gain an objective awareness about these dynamics. And through that objective awareness, we then get to liberate from those internal dynamics that are keeping us from going out and creating in whatever way that we feel called to do at this moment in time. This full moon is in a T-square with the sun and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And Uranus is ruling the sun and the Saturn that are in a new phase conjunction. And to me, this is really reflecting that through us having a reflection about the inner dynamics as they're surfacing and gaining the objective awareness, that we then get to liberate ourselves from how we've been inwardly relating, or maybe how we've not been inwardly relating, how we've been suppressing that creative function within. You know, Jeff Wolf Green talks about Aquarius being, it's like this Uranian Aquarian dynamic of where we get to shed the skins of the past and really liberate from them, where we have had an over-identification with something that is really creating, you know, a ball and chain scenario where we feel locked down and that we are fixed, you know, Aquarius, where we can't move. And with Uranus's ruler, Venus, in the sign of Pisces, we can start to assume or ascertain that this can be an illusion, where we might be deceiving ourselves and understanding this inner dynamic within, that we're all here to serve a creative function of some sort. And we all have the Taurus natural resources within to do that. But there needs to be a liberation from suppressing this or repressing it, and that can only be done through reflection of these emotional dynamics and the awareness that comes through that ultimately helps us shift and radically alter the ways in which we inwardly relate to ourselves. And pulling in that Leo moon, how we inwardly relate to our own expression of creative actualization. Pluto and Mercury are in a balsamic conjunction, and they are also conjunct the south node of Saturn, the south node of Pluto, and the south node of Mercury right now. So for some, there are a lot of emotional dynamics surfacing up right now for us to work with, as a way to understand where maybe some of our self-defeating thoughts have been getting in the way of us actually serving a purpose. The moon is trine Jupiter, and Jupiter is ruled by this Mars in the sign of Gemini. And to me, this really speaks to getting to the bottom of our self-defeating and limiting beliefs. And through getting to the bottom of this and radically altering the ways in which we inwardly relate, new desires can come about that can create choices, Mars and Gemini, ruled by Mercury and Capricorn, that we really need to commit to, that help shape new beliefs about ourselves that have nothing to do with our conditioning, that have everything to do with our very natural, authentic selves. It's almost as if the universe is saying to liberate ourselves from the chains of our conditioning in order to reveal whom we naturally are, and to understand that we are in co-creation. We're always in co-creation of some sort. This full moon really symbolizes a need to bring out this creative function within as a way to not only radically alter how we inwardly relate, how we believe about ourselves, but to also learn lessons of commitment and devotion to the process as it unfolds, and to have faith in the process, to really understand that life is it's a marathon. It's, it's not quick. It is something that takes a long time, and it is something that you learn as you go. With Jupiter in the sign of Aries, this is really speaking to needing to put ourselves out there as a way to have feedback through the counterpoint of Libra. That way we can adjust as necessary. Am I utilizing what is unique and intrinsic and my natural resources within that have the creative function in a way that is beneficial and reflects who I am, and I remain in integrity and I get to put it out there in society in a beneficial way? Or am I hoarding it away through the illusion that I'm not good enough, that I'm too weird, that I can't put this out there, I can't be seen, I'm going to be hurt if I do, that this is just too much for other people to deal with? With Venus in a trine to the south node in Scorpio, and Venus being in the sign of Pisces, ruled by Neptune, there is a need to really look at how we've been inwardly relating to ourselves and outsourcing or externalizing our needs in regards to, for some it can be, I only feel of value when I'm doing for others, even though I can't do for myself right now. There's a need to look at the illusion of this. This is, a type of trine that speaks to something reaching a limitation within, that there is a limitation, that maybe we are deceiving ourselves that we can't do it, we're not good enough yet, we've got to get into the Virgo side of things and be a little more perfectionistic, it's got to be just right before I put it out there. So there's really this call to look at the psychological nature and the emotional nature of where this stems from, and to allow that to dissolve away. There's also another piece of this whole conversation where we can be looking at how do I want to put this? Our creative function can be one where we're utilizing it in a temporal form. And for some, we're being really called to liberate from those temporal values and needs that are conditioned, and to really allow those to dissolve away and to implement more spiritual values and needs. And then to allow that to bring in the co-creation. So that way, when we put out whatever it is that we're supposed to be projecting out in a creative form, that it's more in alignment with co-creation of working with source, and really it's working with the tribe, working with the community, doing something in a very socially relevant way instead of what is just meant for me, that kind of feeling. Jupiter is sextile its ruler Mars, and it's also sextile the sun in the sign of Aquarius. And so this is going back to really needing to objectify and come into an objective awareness about our beliefs. And through this friction of needing to do this, the awareness comes and liberation occurs. And then through the sextile of Jupiter to Mars and Gemini, new choices are created for us to act on, or to make a choice to act on. And because Mars and Gemini is ruled by Mercury in the sign of Capricorn, we are then being asked to commit to that choice after, through discernment and making a correct judgment call, through answering what is right and what's wrong for you on a personal level of how to go about doing that. There's a need to commit and to remain in integrity so that new beliefs about oneself can evolve out of that. That way you continue to shed the skins of the past that are creating a resistance to your own personal growth of evolution, and through the function of your own intrinsic nature of creation and how you co-create, whether it be with community or spirit or friends or your partner or whatnot. So it's really looking at self-limiting, self-defeating beliefs, and through that creating new beliefs, through shedding the old values of a temporal nature, and in place of those, putting new values that are in alignment with who you feel you authentically are. This helps create a radical alteration of how you inwardly relate. And through that function, you then get to, or we all get to, create new choices that can now reflect how we're inwardly relating. And that allows us to remain in integrity as we share what it is that we're wanting to create. So this full moon, I feel like, is really about going after what your heart desires. It's about going after what it is you feel called to go after, that is intrinsic and unique to you, and experiencing co-creation through that function that can then help you change how you value, how you believe about yourself. And it's also allowing us all to implement taking responsibility for oneself and our own destiny. It's pulling in these very Capricorn, Leonian dynamics. Mars is also in conjunct the South Node in Scorpio, and this is a realignment. This is a readjustment. That is what I feel like, on a very basic level, in conjuncts can symbolize. And when you pull in Mars and Gemini being ruled by Mercury, and the South Node in Scorpio being ruled by Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, and a balsamic conjunction to that Mercury, that is Mars ruler, there's a readjustment that is necessary, that needs to occur as these things surface. And it's a new way of thinking, a new way of reformulating or recontextualizing how we express ourselves through the creative function that we all hold within. That is a God-given gift for every single one of us. And through that, more choices come. But it's about remaining in integrity and in alignment with your own values and your own needs, and taking responsibility within those to get after it, to go after life, and to, like, carpe diem some stuff. Like, this is what this full moon really symbolizes, I feel like, is to seize the moment and to not allow the conditioning and the self-defeating thoughts get in the way of that, to know that the value is in the effort. Lilith is trining Mercury, and she is in the sign of Virgo, and this is a beautiful opportunity to be able to understand spirit on a deeper level through making choices that reflect these new values as they come in, as this whole Venus and Pisces, this culmination of how we're inwardly and outwardly relating. It's like we're needing to continue to evaporate the old to create space for the new to come in. And this symbolizes these new values that ultimately help us radically alter the ways in which we inwardly relate to ourselves. And that then gets projected out through this function of Aquarius. And that helps us then attract other people who have these same core dynamics, and that alters how we outwardly relate with people. And so it's just, there's a huge strong call to not get caught up in perfectionism with Lilith in the sign of Virgo trining this Mercury. There's a call to connect with spirit, to rely on spirit, to listen to the inner voice with this Taurus dynamic going on right now with Uranus there. It's ruled by Venus and Pisces. So through becoming reliant on your inner voice and answering and asking your own questions and being responsible and making correct judgment, it strengthens our relationship with spirit, because it allows us to understand that the inner universe, that spirit is within us, just like it's within every other person. And that is part of the creative function within all of us. There's a creative spark of spirit within each and every one of us that is wanting to be liberated, wanting to be seen, wanting to be acknowledged right now. So that way co-creation can happen, and to know that it's possible. But we have to get out of our self-limiting and self-defeating beliefs, and we are needing to be honest with ourselves and to reflect on that, and to not allow the inner critic to get in the way of us doing this, that there is a responsibility in co-creation, in creative actualization. So if you're someone who is feeling the need to create, to do something, to shape your destiny, to go after what it is that your heart desires, there is a strong call to go inward right now and to be honest and to look at who you naturally are and align yourself with that. And this can be very scary for a lot of people right now because of the Aquarian nature. Aquarius is about liberation. It's in this T-square with the full moon, with Uranus, pulling in the Cap dynamics and the South Node and Venus. It's this conglomerate of a conversation. And it can feel like you're on a precipice, that this is just terrifying because you're liberating from something, but there's the security of the known. So there is a ability to resist right now when we're all being called to liberate. And liberation is scary because liberation symbolizes that you haven't done something before, that you're about to make a choice to do something that you've never done before. And that is terrifying. We're humans. That is terrifying. I say this so often, but there's a great Mike Tyson quote. Yes, the boxer. And he says, and this is beautiful for the Aquarius dynamics that are shaping up into this full moon. You can't get rid of the fear, but you can ride it. And that is what this essentially symbolizes. You can ride the wave of the fear while you are liberating yourself from this. And that ultimately creates a new norm for you, and it becomes less scary. It's like, this is another way I like to put it to clients that I'm working with who have a strong Uranian or Aquarian dynamic going on. I liken it to when you're liberating yourself, you are at a pool and maybe you're a little kid, maybe you're an adult, it doesn't really matter. But you really want to jump off the high dive, but you've never done it before. So you're climbing up the ladder, your knees are shaking, you are in your head, can I do this? This is really scary. And you get up there and you look down and you're just terrified. But there's something inside that says, just do it. So you look down and you jump off this high dive. And as you're falling before you hit the water, there's still fear. But as soon as you hit the water, you know you're okay. And you pop back up and you go to the ladder at the side of the pool. And guess what? It was a great time. You want to get out and you want to go back up and you want to do it again. Because you've broken the cycle of fear of action. It's a fear of action. And this full moon really speaks to liberating oneself from the fear of action. There is a call to act. These are what the squares are really symbolizing. There is a call to act, and that act is to liberate from fear. And the call is to co-create, to understand that you have a God-given gift to creatively actualize. And there is something about you that you are bringing into this lifetime that is a God-given natural resource, and you do not want to squander it away. Not in this lifetime. So for those of you who are feeling an immense amount of fear of being vulnerable, of putting yourself out there, feel the emotions, ride the fear, go up the high dive and try it once. Just try it once. And you might belly flop, but you're not going to die. You're going to be okay. And so I feel like this is what this full moon is really speaking to. And I hope that I'm clarifying a lot of this for people. There's so much more I could go into with this full moon. But for time's sake, I think I'm going to leave it at that. And I hope that for those who are feeling afraid right now, that hopefully that they got something out of this that kind of puts a fire under their butt and makes them feel like maybe you can do this, because you can. It is one of the most beautiful experiences in life when you're able to liberate yourself from a fear. And I would not be sitting here doing this video if you know, I haven't done that before. And I have many other occasions later on down the road to continue doing that. So I want you guys to know that you're not alone. All of us are going through this in some way, shape, or form right now. And the call is to dive in and to listen to oneself and to commit to that inner voice and to go after whatever it is that you are wanting to go after in life. No one else is going to do it for you except for yourself. And what it can do spiritually is connect you to deeper levels of that inner universe within. So I hope you all have a beautiful full moon, and I will see you the next time I do one of these videos.